good things. I got a haircut. I finally got a haircut. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. It has been almost 4 months since I got a haircut. It was on July 10th. That was the last time that I haircut. And it fucking needed it. It needed it. And I went with something, right? Keep the curls, do the little curly thing. I don't know, a little easier to maintain. Anyway, to be perfectly honest, I wasn't planning on doing a video today, but I got a new haircut and I wanted to show off the new haircut, and it felt very appropriate considering that we are talking about, SE. We're talking about the sensory, and I got some new sensory, and I'm very excited about it. So I guess I should probably do the intro. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Full Blast. I'm your host, Raja Burrows, and continuing the series. So this is going to be SE for SI users, and I fucking racked my brain trying to figure out what the fuck to talk about in this video. This is probably going to be an aberration. This is probably not going to be a typical in the series kind of video. Here is why. There are so many cultural forces, especially in Western culture. My understanding is that this is, again, to the extent that Western culture and capitalism has sort of like taken over the globe in a lot of ways. I think that a lot of the premises probably hold true to a pretty solid extent in non-Western countries, but particularly in America, in Europe, the forces of capitalism are so pervasive that me saying, how do you do more SE? Like all that Western culture is trying to get you to do is just buy more shit. That's the whole fucking thing. Bigger and better, more, accumulate the things, put money back into the economy, and then make money so that you can spend money and like keep inflating this, the SE capitalism game, right? And so, honestly, I could make this video under 3 minutes, including my long ass intro, and just be like, it's like, hey, if you want to get better at SE, just play the capitalism game. Congratulations, done. That took me 2 minutes and 55 seconds to make this whole video. You're fucking welcome. So, but that's not particularly satisfying. So what I want to do in this video is I want to really break down the human need of organize versus gather. And sort of what SI is trying to do compared to what SE is trying to do. And because here's the thing, when you're in a system that is so, relentlessly SE driven, particularly masculine SE, which is what I have, right? I kind of lucked out in that respect, growing up when I did, in the country that I did, having masculine SE, huge fucking advantage in a lot of ways, especially for me as a dude, as a straight dude. Like, it really has made my life significantly easier than it could have been otherwise. So I'm enormously grateful for my function stack where masculine SE is in my function stack. Sorry, I'm just really into my new haircut. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's been so long since I've actually gotten my haircut, and it's weird to like see myself in a way that I know this isn't like an FI video, but to sort of see the visual, like when I see myself in this video, I'm like, oh right, that's how I think I look. And to see all of the chaos and the crazy, for it to not be that, has been like kind of weirdly misaligned. Sorry, but again, because I'm watching myself in the camera. Again, taking note of the sensory. and the new sensory in particular. Anyway, sorry, super random. Right. So when we're in a culture that is so SE dominant, masculine SE dominant, you know, working on it is not particularly challenging. As opposed to somebody like for me, where I'm like, there are two reasons why I'm like, SI is the secret of the universe, and is the secret to human existence. One, it's a function that I don't have. Two, it plays to my lead human needs, so I'm going to be doing a little bit of savior preaching with it. But more importantly, it is such a powerful antidote to the consumer capitalism culture that I'm like, yeah, no, that is a really important balancing out force, right? So I want to talk about the really, like, what is the difference between organize versus gather with respect to the sensory? What is it trying to do? And really figuring out like when one function is more useful than the other. So when we're talking about SI, go back and watch the SI for SE users video. But to sort of recap that one, SI, the way that I see both of the introverted observer functions, right? Your NI and your SI, both of them care deeply, deeply, deeply about efficiency. There was a great, God, please don't fucking ask me how I remember this, but there was a great Foxtrot comic. This, again, I don't remember when it was published because I read them in the collection, so I don't know the exact date. But my guess is this is probably 94, 95-ish. And there was, so Roger, he's the father in Foxtrot. He was, it was Monday morning comic strip, right? Because comic strips used to do like week-long story arcs from time to time. And he, started Monday mornings like, Andy, who is his wife, we have some new efficiency expert coming in. I'm a little concerned. But apparently she's some bigwig, and Andy's like, well, maybe she'll have some really good ideas for how to streamline the company. And then in the punchline is the boss saying, she said, no. I said she wears a big wig. And then you see this woman like, number 2 pencils, or, why do you have a number 2.5 pencil? We're wasting 0.4 cents per pencil that you use, blah, blah, blah. Right. But I think about that often. And I think about how what all that OI is ever trying to do is to narrow down, to streamline, to make more efficient. And in a lot of ways, SI, and this is right, this is where I think that a lot of the cultural tropes get in the way, because we're so accustomed to seeing SI as this, like, as I mentioned, right, the ISTJ accountant, the ISFJ librarian nurse, the very like matronly, fuddy-duddy, stuck in their ways, not cool, just like, every day I do this, and then I do this, and then I do this, and if you need this number, let me go. It's like, oh yes, that Dewey Decimal number is 740.0265, and it's in the 700s, so that means it's in the this. And you're like, what the fuck? Whoa. And it can get, right, so we have a lot of cultural baggage around SI. And to expand on that even more, I think that you could make an argument that, at least here in America, Britain seems to be a very SI culture. And so the formation of America, to the extent that it was informed by breaking away from Britain, and like manifest destiny and westward expansion and gather the sensory, as a response to this feeling of like, no, we do this and we do this and we do this and we do this. again, I think that those cultural factors play into this. As I said before, this is not going to be a typical kind of video, but I want to use this opportunity to sort of expand the conversation, just because the actual practical end of this video is just play the capitalism game. Goodbye. That's how you get better at SE, straight up. So, but SI really does care about doing things efficiently. And it can accomplish some really extraordinary things. You know what? Just because I realized it, and I might as well. It's in the shot, so let's bring it up. Look at this shit. I mean, this is really one of, if not the most special gift that I've ever been given. I love it so much. But check that shit. Like, look at the level of detail. Like, are you fucking kidding me right now with this shit? Are you fucking kidding me with the level of detail right there, right? This is like SI masterpiece to hell. And this is the kind of thing that I look at and I'm like, I could never fucking do this. At least not in the immediate future. Like, it would take me so long to get good at this. But here's the thing. The way to do this is you really just have to master one or two or a handful of stitches, and patterns. And then you can do what, right? And you're just like, oh, I just need to do this one thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And eventually it will all come together. And, I think about that. And when I look at the people in my life who have really, really strong SI, they're enormously efficient at the things that they do. So I'm going to, one of my former colleagues, strongish SI. There was some stuff that this person did to undermine their SI, but the SI itself was really, really robust. And what they were really adept at doing is they had these really intensely complicated processes that just like they were able to get through the whole thing. And they did that, this 17-step process literally as quickly as humanly possible. Right? They're like, oh great, so I do this and then 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 this, and then it gets done. And there's nobody, again, because SI, it's about organization, subjectivity. It's like taking out all of the air between each of the little steps. And if there's too much air between two given steps, they're like, well, let me add another step just so that I'm not hemorrhaging energy in between steps, right? They want like, right? Doing 50 steps is weirdly, again, to somebody who's really, really intensely SI, doing 50 teeny tiny steps is more efficient than saying, do these 4 steps. Which is why you will sometimes find that an SI person will do something that looks on the outside to be very inefficient. Because you're like, hang on, there are 12 steps here that just fucking don't need to be here at all. Zero, there's no reason for this. And then their brain breaks and they're like, but that's how you do it. That's my process. That's my system. I have to do this and I have to do this and then I have to do this and then I have to do this. And then if I do these 17 things, that's what will get me, to make the picture that it needs. And then if you come in, one of my big jobs and one of the reasons why I was such an upstart in my company. And again, I wasn't being a dick about it. That was quite literally my job. That was what the owner of the company was explicitly paying me to do. She was like, all right, Roger, we're going to give you a weekly salary. We're going to give you money and a desk. I just want you to break shit and then fix it. That was literally my job. And boy, did I piss a lot of people off. Holy hell. And I didn't fully grasp at the time why what I was doing was so disruptive. Now, let me be absolutely clear. One of the reasons that my role was so contentious was that it was not sufficiently explained to the people whose shit I was wrecking that my job was to wreck it, which was a huge fucking problem. Again, because the two people in particular, really three people, but two in particular whose, jobs I wrecked, they were not told that my job was to break their shit. And so then they would get mad at me for breaking their shit. And I'd be there being like, no, but I was told to break your shit. Go ask mom. Mom told me to break your shit. And then they would go complain to mom. And then mom, the boss, would be like, oh, I don't know. Well, is there a way, we're making changes, but maybe you can do this. And I guess I'll No. My job is to break your shit. You told me to break their shit, but you didn't tell them that I was going to break their shit, right? And it's just like me with my NI. If you throw in a bunch of NE chaos and you're like, well, what if we approached it this way? Or what if we approached it this way? What if we approached it this way? My NI is going to freak the fuck out and be like, but no, I thought, why are we changing this? What is wrong with the way that we have been doing it? And again, whether you're NI or you're SI, if you have that at the top or you have that as a savior, you're going to feel this need to do things in a way that is predictable. Why? Because there's it feeds the human need of certainty. And quite frankly, you can just get shit done if you know what you're doing. Right? If you know, again, I remember this is a different SI former colleague that I had, as I mentioned in the other video. She could do a process that was 9 steps long, as long as if you just said to her, this is every single step, do this and 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 this. She's like, great. It's going to take me half a day to get fast at that, but once I get the muscle memory of doing it, I can just gun through it, and then it won't take me as long in the future, and it'll be fine, right? Where she got fucked up is there was so much chaos around her that she wasn't insulated from, and so she had to do she was basically living in a demon state the whole time of any chaos, and she's like, I have to fucking research and consume and learn about the problem and go in and find all the details. And by the time I do that, then I'm behind on emails and it's a whole fucking thing. And there was no oversight and no one telling her what to do. And again, just a bad situation all around. But on the SI front, she was very, very efficient at it. But, going back to my job as the disruptor, my job was to go in and say, okay, so this process is 17 steps long. We can there's a version of this process that gets us the same end result in 6 steps. Oh boy. But what it wasn't doing, right? It wasn't like there's 17 steps and 11 of them are redundant. Because they could have handled that. SI is totally fine in a lot of ways if they're like, okay, 17 steps, and then over time, they'll get rid of those steps that they don't need, and they will make it more efficient, and they will pare that process down. But what I was doing is I was coming in and saying, okay, you have this 17-step process. Here are 6 brand new steps to do instead. So I was yanking their 17 steps that they knew and replacing it with 6 completely fucking brand new steps. which for me as an SE user, I'm like, fuck yeah, give me new steps if there are fewer of them. I'm super fine with that because I'm looking at things on a spectrum. I'm looking to gather. I want new shit. I want new ways of doing things. And that was perfectly acceptable, right? But they're looking at this and they're like, are you fucking, I have to learn a whole new pattern and system. And where they got fucked up is they're like, okay, here's these 6 new steps. They're going to be slower doing 6 new steps than they were doing 17 old steps. And that's where SI can be a liability. Because both of the introverted observers, your NI and your SI, are going to be comparing the present moment to the past. And it's really, really easy for us to get in our heads, to get fucked off, to just get really inefficient if we're stuck in this battle of, but that's not what I'm used to. But that's not what that's not what I am comfortable with. That's not what I know. As an NESI user, I will totally start with too many steps that I'll eliminate steps after I've gotten them into my muscle memory and then evaluated that they're unnecessary. Exactly. And in the 17-step process, all of those steps were necessary. Like, you can't just take away, like, it was the most efficient version of that iteration, of that version of the process, right? Without adding new things. That was the most efficient way to do it. And then I come in and I'm like, here's 6 brand new things that you've never seen before. Just fucking scattershot, chaos, fucking shit mess. And then I'm like, here, organize this shit. I got other things to do. I'm running off to the next thing. Well, that's not going to work for them. And they're going to be really inefficient because they're like, here's these 6 new blocks. I have no fucking idea how they go together. They gave me sort of a template, but like I haven't seen the sensory and I haven't seen how to go from thing to thing to thing to thing. And if they're used to 17 steps and they're trying to piece all these together, all they're going to see are the gaps, right? All they're going to see are, well, okay, here's a really good example. Have you ever tried to help somebody from an older generation use a piece of new technology? If you have not, you're missing out on a quintessential 21st century life experience. It's a beautiful thing to watch. It's a beautiful thing to be a part of. And I heartily look forward to the younger generation having to do the same thing to me. Like, I'm not dumb enough to think that I'm immune to this. That I see what's coming down the line. And I hope that I am open and receptive and understand the system part of it. With my kids and grandkids or younger generation, whoever, does that for me. Right. So what I finally figured out is that when especially if that person has SI, I can't just say, okay, so I want you to I can't just say go to eBay, right? Because they're going to look at me and they're going to be like, I have no frame of reference for what you just said. Okay. So then I have to say, oh, right, sorry, eBay is a website, so just go to ebay.com. And then they're like, wait, what do you, ebay.com? Where would I go for that? I don't understand how to put that in. And then you're like, oh, right. Okay. So here's what you do. So you have your mouse. You see the bar towards the top where it should say AOL.com or MSN.com or whatever it is. And they're like, yes. Okay, I see that. And I say, okay, great. So I want you to click on that. And they're like, okay, great. Got the mouse, right? And I click on that. And I say, when you click on that, it should highlight it. Okay. So they're like, okay, it's highlighted. And I say, great. So once it is highlighted, type in www.ebay.com. And then they're like, wait, it's typing it at the end. And I'm like, okay, no worries. I want you to double click on that so that it's got to stay highlighted. And then I want you to hit delete so that it's gone, so that there's nothing there. They're like, okay, great. I see it. I highlighted it and I deleted it. And then I said, now you're going to go to www.ebay.com. And then they're like, nothing happened. I'm like, okay, got it. You got to re-click to make sure that there's like the little flashing cursor, right? The little up and down line that should be flashing. You should see a little line on the bar. They're like, I see that. Great. So once you have that, www.ebay.com, and then hit return. ebay.com, return. Hey, I got to eBay, right? Which to me, as somebody who, born in the 80s, was using AOL in 1992, to me, that's just like the most obvious, dumbest thing in the world, right? And my brain is just like, go to eBay, because I've already internalized each of those mini micro steps. I don't need those spelled out for me, right? And again, because I'm an NI user, I know what the end goal is, and so I can navigate through the chaos of sensory steps if I know what I'm aiming for, right? And here, okay, so here's another example. If I'm on a website, if I'm, again, talking my boomer parents through some banking something on a website, and they're like, I don't know, I'm having trouble. Like, how am I need to change. It says to change my password. I'm like, great. So I want you to go to delta.com. You remember how to do that? And they're like, yes, I do. I go to the top and I go to delta.com, hit enter. I said, okay, so I'm on the Delta page. And then I'm like, great, go to settings. And they're like, I don't see settings. And then I think, oh, right. You're probably not automatically logged in. Do you see something at the top of the page that says sign in? Yes, I do. Great. So I want you to go click sign in. And then you're going to type in your email and your password. And then they're like, aha, yes, I remember. I'm going to go to my little book where I have the email and the password written down for each of the different websites. And then Delta is here. So I find the Delta, I write it down, put it in there. And then I say, okay, great. You're going to go to settings. And they're like, I don't see settings. I say, okay, do you see a gear? Do you see 3 dots? Do you see, right? And that's what my SE is doing. It does not care what it looks like. It doesn't need to look like a gear in order for me to find settings. It doesn't need to look like 3 lines or 3 dots or an arrow next to my sign-in profile name. Because I generally was like, yeah, whatever. Like that's not super key. Like that can change. It's about what's underneath the hood. That's what I'm really looking for. But somebody who's really, really attached to SI, like they're gonna need those specifics. They're gonna feel more comfortable with those specifics until they've done it a bunch. So here is where SI can get you into trouble. If you are in a situation or a scenario where there's just not time to explain that to you. And that's where SI gets really, really fucked up. And again, my God, did I see it like crazy. We introduced a new, sales pipeline kind of thing, right? Because we're like, you know what? Our sales system is really complicated. It's antiquated. It's this weird, like, it was built in 1997. It's a mess. It was a program called FileMaker, but it was the old version of FileMaker that couldn't be updated. It was just a fucking mess of a weird thing. And so we're like, okay, we need a new system. And so we did some research and we found this thing called Pipedrive, and it was great. You could customize the bars, and you're like, oh, this is the Cooper family. Oh, we're moving them to match. They want to match with the tutor. So I'm going to drag them into the match tutor column. And the idea is that it's so that people in management, people in accounting, they could easily track and see where things are. Great system. Boy, those savior SIs, those blast sleep SI types, they did not like that at all. They were not a fan. And they're like, I'm not doing it. This is new. I don't like it. I don't know how this works. This is going to make me inefficient. I'm going to not be able to make sales. I'm not going to be able to make you money. And we then said, oh my God, sorry, if that wasn't clear, this is not, we're not flipping the switch on this. Like we're rolling this out. Like the goal is by the end of the year to slowly, eventually transition over to this thing. And then they're like, nope, I'm doing it my way. And then we all sort of looked at each other and we're like, what do you... No, the CEO said that we're doing something new. So we're doing something new? Like, I don't know, like, why is this confusing to you? And they're like, I'm not doing it. And then finally towards the end, they ended up getting let go, again, for a number of reasons. But one of the big things is they're like, you know what? They're just not doing it. Like they're not able to adapt. And the longer they put it off, the more the time crunch of like, I don't have time to learn this new thing. The deadline is looming and nobody is helping me and I can't, this is all new and I don't know how to do the things. And you're like, oh my God, if you had started to learn the new thing a year ago when we brought it up, you would not be in this position right now. And so here's what I would say to the SI people who struggle with SE chaos. First off, I think it's worth recognizing that just because how about this? If you can make a 17-step process efficient, I promise you can make a 6-step process efficient too. It's going to be clunky at first. It's not going to be as efficient at first. But that same premise of like, my job is to just take the air out of each of the steps, you'll do that, right? And how about this? If there's like, look, my lead NI wants like 2 steps, we done. But like, I get that that's not always realistic. So if I give you something, or if somebody gives you something where it's like, there are only 6 steps, but it's incomplete, you can add steps yourself. It's fine. You're good. You can add a step here or a step there. If you're like, you know what? I just need to mentally have another step to bridge this gap. It's all good. You can add steps. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Maybe don't do it too much, but again, the whole goal is efficiency. We just need to get the thing done. Like, that's all we're trying to do here. So I encourage you SI people to trust your ability to be efficient at shit, because y'all are real fucking efficient. I don't know what to tell you. You're very, very good at being efficient. So you can trust that. And if there is new sensory data coming in that you have to integrate, trust that, okay, it's going to be clunky for a second. It's going to be clunky for a second. But I have to take it in. Because if I don't, I'm going to get fucked eventually. At some point, that tidal wave is just going to wreck me. Like, it is just going to kick my ass. And, I think that I think that's just a thing that everybody in a number of different ways is going to, they're going to feel that, right? There's the shadow tidal wave. So like for me, my, NE is going to kick my ass just because I'm like, I don't see it coming. It's already a bitch to look in 4 directions. I can't go into the upside down and look at fucking 4 directions upside down. And no, absolutely not. Absolutely. Like, that's really stressful. So I get it. But I encourage you to say, listen, I've done it before. I can do it again. It's just new. Or in the words of Brene Brown, it's just an FFT problem, which means fucking first time. That's it. It's just the first time. You're fine. I promise you're fine. And I think it's worth trusting on the back end that recognize, look, the world changes, right? Which means that your data and your steps are likely going to need an update in the exact same way that my NI is going to need to get updated in the face of a changing world. That is the blessing and the curse of the lead OI and the OI savior, is that we want to be able to just keep doing the same thing and not update our internal map. But that's a really, really important thing for us to do, just to question it, right? Just to go, okay, am I still heading in the right direction? Do these steps still serve me? Here's a really dumb sensory example, but like, if you say to yourself, well, I've been wearing these shoes for, 20 years. I always get the same pair of new shoes, and these are the ones that work for me, and I get the same brand, and whatever. That is worth being like, you know what? Let's say every 5 years, right? I'm not saying you got to update your model all the time, but every 5 years, every 3 to 5 years, be like, okay, I've been buying these same shoes for the last 3 to 5 years. Let me go look and just see what other shoes exist. I just want to see. Maybe they are better. Maybe they are not. That's not the point. The point is just looking and trying to gather and seeing, you know what? Let me try this new pair of shoes. Let me just try it. If it doesn't work, congratulations, you were right all along. But it's worth that kind of cross-check. It's worth that kind of cross-check. And again, I say this as somebody with lead NI who does not want to change plans, but I've, learned to sort of force myself to check and go, okay, is there a better plan? Is there a better end game that I could be aiming for? And again, it's just a matter of like popping your head up, looking around and going, yeah, no, broadly speaking, I like what's going on here. I like the things I have. I'm looking forward, right? Just getting a little consciousness. And then you can go back down and like keep your head down and keep trucking along. I think that's totally fine. But you got to build in the picking your head up and looking around. You have to do it. Because if you don't, shit's going to pass you by. Shit's going to pass you by. And I'll leave you with one sort of very concrete example. I love photography. I love taking pictures. I love taking pictures of nature, not so much people. Again, #observer problems. I don't give a fuck about the people. I actually prefer no humans in my photography. I want mountains and lakes and foliage and beach and sand and plants and shit. Maybe an animal, if that like fits, but generally speaking, like I just want the landscape, right? And back in 2016, for my 30th birthday, I got a really nice camera, really nice camera, and I used it a little bit, and it was kind of weird and kind of wonky and a little clunky, and I didn't totally love it, but I'm glad I got it. I'm glad I tried it, and I got a brand new phone. And then I kept that phone for 3 years, which is longer than you're supposed to keep phones, right? And so when it was like, you know what, I really do have to like update my phone, I didn't just look at let me get the same version of the new phone. It was like, okay, I have this iPhone, the iPhone 7, but let me look at the Pro version of the iPhone 11. Let me look at that. Like, let me just see if it's something that I want. It's new. I don't like it. It is not in my IJ box. It's certainly more money than I've ever spent on a phone. But I was like, you know what? I really like taking pictures. And I looked at that phone, the phone that I ended up getting, the iPhone 11 Pro, as like, okay, half of this is me spending money on a new phone, which I need. I need the better processing. I need the better whatever. But this is also me getting a new camera. And I was like, ooh, okay. If I look at it like this, then yeah, this new thing, this new gadget, this new sensory actually serves my needs better. And I'm not saying that you have to go out and buy everything new, but I encourage all of you with Savior OI in general, but especially with those of you with Savior SI, like, look at the things that you have and actually evaluate, like, is this serving me in and of itself, or is it serving me because I've learned how to work with it? That's a big question. And that's a hard question to ask, because now we're getting into like your sleep processing and your identity, and it becomes like it can become a very complicated, sticky problem. That's the work. And if you can look at your, and start with like dumb shit, and say, you know what, this webcam that I've been using kind of sucks. I just need a new thing. And start with something that doesn't matter, or with something that's like very obviously dilapidated and outdated. And you're like, I'm sure there's a new vacuum cleaner that's better. And then just try it and build that muscle of integrating new sensory things into your box and getting comfortable, getting efficient with new sensory things. And that will sort of kickstart your process of being able to look at the things in your life. I mean, like the sensory things more objectively, with less personal attachment, and being able to go, you know what, this stuff serves me, this stuff doesn't. It can go. I don't need it. I'm going to replace these 5 things with 2 new things and then integrate that. And I can still meet all of my human needs, but just better, because I'm looking outside of my SI box. All right, that's all I got for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.